Nothing in this recording is intended as investment advice, and the people in this recording may hold positions in the companies they talk about. Do not make any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to Zak's Traders Cafe. Today I'm joined by Malcolm Palle, who's Executive Chairman at Coinsilium. How are you today, Malcolm?
Hi, morning. How are you, Zach?
Doing very well. There's been a lot going on in the Bitcoin Treasury Strategy area over the last couple of months, and I suppose
Yeah.
Coinsilium's been at the forefront of that. You've just raised some money, bought some more Bitcoin, but what can people expect who are in the stock?
Yeah, sure. So key to everything that we do in this space is the kind of we have to three prongs. We raise, we buy Bitcoin, and we announce. And the quantum we can buy is determined by the amount that we can raise. And this space is quite extraordinary. It's certainly gathering pace, and we've got the guiding light coming from the model in the US. Or the models in the US, and these are being kind of adopted in the UK. Although the UK, we have to always be mindful it is a much more challenging environment for many reasons. There's not the level of funding at this stage as there is available in the US. So whatever we can get, whenever we can get it, we're very grateful. And that's changing markedly. And also now we have our headroom increased from our recent general meeting. We're having more meaningful conversations about access to larger amounts of funding. But obviously, you juxtaposition that against the volatility that we're experiencing, and then you have to sort of recognise that the funding levels you can achieve are determine a factor of your share price and your market cap as well. So there's all these things coming into play. Fortunately, whilst it's been turbulent and to say the least, you can't forget that what we're talking about is leverage plays on Bitcoin, but it's a model that works, and it's driven by, as I said, obviously the market in the US is a lot further ahead than we are in the UK, but things are moving fast. So as you pointed out, we announced a 5 million placing and a 500,000 wrap with Winterflood, which was significantly oversubscribed, which is encouraging, and that was our largest raise to date. Your listeners should know that we're deploying the most. We allocating that. There's nothing else that other than what we do for working capital. We're not making any other what we need for working capital, but otherwise no other investments outside of us buying Bitcoin. So we're going to dedicate that to a significant purchase. Hopefully, once the funds land and we move that through. We announced this morning another 12 or so Bitcoin we bought, which obviously was out of our existing funds and not the new funds coming in. And that's all. The more we raise, the more we can put into Bitcoin. The less of a proportion of our overheads each raise is required to cover. And our overheads are pretty lean for a public company because we don't have sort of huge team and huge staff and lots of offices. So all in all, it's good. We're very encouraged by the way the market's moving. We'll get some pullbacks, a little bit like flying a plane through huge levels of turbulence. But as long as you strap in and keep your eye on the horizon rather than listening to the day-to-day noise, we get there. And you just, you look back at where we were at the end of May. It's only June and July, 2 months. We're sitting there with 124 Bitcoin. And with this raise, we're going to increase that by significantly. I mean, I would hope that we'd be able to increase that by marginally less than 50%. But we're only as good as the last raise which we did, and that gets deployed, and then we go again. So all things have to be considered. The turbulence in the market, the ebbing and waning of the funding. But I think from the last placing we did, we were very encouraged that Oak Securities have now set up a dedicated digital asset fund, which was really a key determinant for us in terms of actually getting the support we need from this growing institutional capability. Yeah, so we're very encouraged, and we're looking forward to putting out several announcements over the summer, hopefully just keeping this flywheel going.
So I mean, that's a pretty full answer. Leverage play on Bitcoin, I understand. I hope other people understand. I think not as many people understand that concept as they should, and maybe there's some work to be done on that.
Yeah.
The other concept or the other issue at the moment is that there have been a lot of Me Too companies going into Bitcoin Treasury Strategy. You've been doing this for years in terms of being in the space, at least, not necessarily the Bitcoin Treasury Strategy, but you've been in the digital space for years. So you're not a Me
Yeah.
Too company, and that has given you much more credibility than other sort of more fly-by-night people who've just got into the fray now. So is that really the reason that people would choose Coinsilium rather than any of the other 20 or 30 companies who are in the space in London?
Is there that many? Wow. Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of factors, and everything you said is right, is correct. We have been in the space a long time. I think when you start looking at this, you look at it very simplistically, and you say, well, surely if they've got some Bitcoin on their balance sheet, then that's all that matters. And we would encourage any company to have some Bitcoin, simply because of our philosophy, and the philosophy of most people who actually are from this space is the understanding of what Bitcoin represents and how it can actually act as a better form of money. But that's sort of what drives us, and what it's our guiding light. Those that come into the space, I would urge them to actually do the level of research you need to. It's not just a matter of just waking up one morning and deciding you're going to become referenced by the Bitcoin you hold on. You're looking for investors to reference the amount of Bitcoin you hold, and that way will help you to raise money, and it will help you to actually grow. Look at the mechanics, look at the structure, look at everything that the company is doing, look at its roadmap, what it's trying to achieve. If investors look at our website, they'll see that we've got a digital a Bitcoin treasury policy, and a strategy which is laid out. It's definitely worth a read, because it does establish in writing what we're aiming to do and how we're aiming to go about it. So it's not one for opportunists who just think that they'll latch onto Bitcoin, and maybe last year, 2 years ago, it was lithium or whatever else it is that is the flavor of the month. This isn't a flavor of the month play. This is a very different thing. And I think that a lot of the companies who are perhaps getting into this might be able to get one or two raises away to buy a bit of Bitcoin, but they're not going to be able to satisfy or convince the people with the money. And it's not straightforward getting that money either. As everyone learns more and gets more educated and understands, you have to have that in your wheelhouse. You have to have that whole structure there. So that's the long answer to the question. What you're talking about regarding being a leverage play on Bitcoin is absolutely essential to understand, because there's a metric that investors go by, which is called an MNAV, which is a multiple of your net asset value, and that multiple is actually what determines people's decisions as to what to buy and what represents value and what doesn't. And so if you look at it as an alternative metric in this world to a multiple of your share price, so that's a multiple of your net asset value, in relation to how trading companies work, which is a kind of PE. Whilst this isn't income as such, although some people treat it as such, it's a gain. It's if Bitcoin goes up, it's a gain, and that squeezes the MNAV down. But the point being that this is what people go by when they're looking at companies and determining whether they have what they represent in terms of value. So I would say that equates to a PE ratio in the traditional world. Whilst you're not looking at income in the traditional sense, you're looking at growth of Bitcoin, but what we've seen with the growth of Bitcoin in value over the last 16 years that it's been going, there shouldn't be any doubt that it actually has got validity as a metric. And anyone who kind of questions it, who comes from perhaps a traditional school and says, well, look, I'll look at the net asset value. That's what I'll pay. I might pay a premium, I might pay a discount. But when they're looking at PEs, they look at whether those PEs are justified. And I think that, when you're looking at an MNAV, you've got to consider whether that is justified in relation to the actual business, the treasury entity you're looking to invest in. And I would also, just without getting too distracted, just point out that there's a little bit of a distinction you have to make in the UK, because every company that enters this space, there's a regulatory kind of consideration, because companies can't simply set up as treasury companies and all they're doing is holding Bitcoin. They have to have an activity that differentiates what they do from an entity that is simply a kind of a tracker, or just referencing the price or the value of the cryptocurrency they hold, even though investors look at that as the predominant factor as to whether they'll invest in them or not. You've got regulatory issues as well, and concerns, which we're encouraged by, the way the market's moving. They may kind of change and be more conducive going forward. But of course, Coinsilium has been in this space for a long time, and it can differentiate itself quite adequately with its other investments. And this is, if investors want to consider our other investments, then fine, we certainly do, but quite clearly at the moment the main guiding light is how many Bitcoin you've got, how many you can purchase, how quickly you can purchase them, and how quickly you can drive the share price. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of the long answer to your question.
Malcolm Palle, Executive Chairman at Coinsilium, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.